It's so okay.
We must fight! We must fight!
Yeah.
Because people outside believe us! We must fight!
Thank you so much. So I wanted to kind of guide us through this conversation about these moments in our lives, these really kind of incredible moments, how they happened, and why us, you know? There's always that question of like, how did I end up in all of this? I think a lot of people tend to, over the years, many people have approached me, and I know they approach you all too, and there's this kind of like hero perception of like, oh, you're special. There's something special about you. You came from some, you know, extraordinary, special group of people in the world who do incredible things. And I've always just felt very at the core of my being that that's not true. That we're just really regular, everyday people, just like any of you. And so to get us started, I was hoping that each of us would introduce ourselves, saying a little bit about who are you as a person. Tell us a little bit about you, about your life, who you were before you took action, before you climbed the Statue of Liberty, before you occupied Governor Scott's office in Tallahassee, before I walked 1,500 miles to DC. Well, you know, who are you? What led you in your life to that moment? Yeah. So, any
Hey, good morning, good afternoon. I can't tell what time it is. How's everybody doing? How you doing? Yeah. My name is Patricia Okumo, the lady that climbed the Statue of Liberty on the 4th of July. It is an honor to be here with you, to see this large room full of people, and to have to fly from New York City, particularly Staten Island, to come and join you in your work is such a privilege. Watching your story up here on the screen, hearing some of your testimony, I wanted to cry because I relate in so many levels. But to answer Isa's question, the reason I climbed the Statue of Liberty, a lot of people ask me, what was going in your head? Why did you do it? I always go back to Africa, where I'm from. I'm originally from the Republic of Congo. You hear on the news people say I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo, but it's not accurate. I'm from Congo, Brazzaville. My father was an aviator, the pilot for the current president. So the president in the Congo right now, his name is Denis Sassou Nguesso. My father passed in 2013. I had already been in this country. I've been here over 2 decades. I came in on August 2nd, 1994, but family separation goes back to home. When I was barely 2 years old, there was a woman, I call her the witch in my life, who was responsible for splitting us, my family, from each other. She felt it alright to get involved with a married man. So at the age of 2, my father took custody of us and raised us with his new wife. So I felt the pain my mother went through from that separation and not having her own children with her. I felt the betrayal of being raised by another woman who had no interest in us. So fast forward, on April 10, I joined Rise and Resist, the group that was with me on Liberty Island. On April, if you had been following the news, the Trump administration came up and announced they were going to use this tactic, zero tolerance policy on immigration, that they were going to be tough and make sure to deter immigrants from coming to our country. Jeff Sessions came out and he said it. And the news, of course, they try to manipulate our brain, but brainwashing us to believe it's the other way around, that a lot of people, children, are coming here unaccompanied. No. They made the announcement about this cool and humane way of dealing with immigration. Migration is a natural phenomenon. Putting children in cages is not normal. So I have to take a stand, a bold stand, just listening to my heart, because where I come from originally, we just simply do not put children in cages. Thank you.
Hey y'all, so I'm Naila. I am one of the... I love you too. I'm very nervous, it's been a while. But I am one of the founding members of the Dream Defenders, and I currently serve as the communications director for the Dream Defenders. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, right? So, before the Capitol, before the dismissal of George Zimmerman for the killing of Trayvon Martin, I was a student at the University of Florida. They were literally the first school that gave me an acceptance letter after I graduated from Miami-Dade College, Wolfson. So I packed my bags and I went up to Gainesville. Student of history, student of African American studies, getting woke, right? The year before, or 6 months before Trayvon Martin died, I traveled to the Mississippi Delta. And I was there to study and take oral histories of the civil rights movement. So we were in the Delta, we saw where Emmett Till was thrown into the, I think it's the Tallahatchie?
Yeah.
The river that Emmett Till was thrown into. And in this tiny town of Indianola, Mississippi, probably a population of like 400, they have a very small Emmett Till museum. And we visited there. I went with UF to go visit the Mississippi Delta. We walked through this Emmett Till museum, and at the end of it, they had a wax recreation of what he looked like in the casket, right? So learning this history, learning that blood had been shed, seeing the marker for Fannie Lou Hamer, right, who is an idol for many of us, an example, just a person that is a beaming light still to people in the movement. But, you know, I saw this wax recreation of the Emmett Till casket, and I just sort of burst. I was bawling. I was like, get me out of here. I need to smoke a cigarette. Like, I need to clear my head a little bit. And I went outside, and this woman walked up to me, and she's like, are you one of the students from Florida? And mind you, this is a tiny, tiny town. I was like, yeah, I am. She's like, she hands me a postcard with a picture of her son on it. His name is Frederick Jermaine Carter, and the year prior to this, she had found out that her son had been hung from a tree. So seeing Emmett Till, meeting this woman, Frederick Jermaine Carter was his name, but it's a postcard. It was the first time I'd ever seen a black person hanging from a tree in color. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know about organizing yet. I was just like, let's do a candlelight vigil in Gainesville when we get back. You know, I didn't really have the tools yet. And so I stayed in contact with the mom. And, you know, I tried to do things with the little knowledge that I had. And that was in September. In February, Trayvon Martin got killed. And I just was like, back to back these experiences, these jarring experiences, witnessing Black death and learning about it. And it messed me up. So Trayvon Martin died. I had a professor called Paul Ortiz at University of Florida that told me that students were going to get on the phone to talk about what to do about Trayvon Martin. Students in Florida who were pissed about it. I got on the phone, became a series of conference calls, and that became the Dream Defenders. I believe there are a couple people in here that were on those phone calls. So I've been rolling ever since. I learned how to organize with the Dream Defenders. I learned how to do communications with Dream Defenders. It is my political home, and it is my duty to be involved. So, yeah, I mean, watching our people suffer, watching our people be disenfranchised and murdered is what brought me to this faith.
For those of you who haven't been able to get to know me, I'm an immigrant from Colombia. I came to the US when I was 6 years old, fleeing the civil war in Colombia. And I'm a dreamer. I grew up in this country as an undocumented person. When I met the Florida Immigrant Coalition, I had been kicked out of my father's house for being queer, and I was trying to figure out how to survive without papers, how to find work without papers, and I met you all. I met a family of people fighting for a better future. And throughout high school, most of my family members had been deported before I met FLIC, before I knew that we could fight back, that we could speak out against these injustices. So in 2009, right before the Trail of Dreams came about, in 2008, I had been organizing on college campuses, trying to get students registered to vote because Obama was running for president. And there was so much excitement and hope that Obama would be, would deliver immigrants from oppression and help us find freedom. And then he came into office, and in the first year, there was a spike in deportations, record numbers of deportations. And so at the end of 2009, I just felt so betrayed. And not just me, but all of the other youth, from Students Working for Equal Rights and Florida Immigrant Youth Network, there was just this widespread, just sense of betrayal. Our loved ones were disappearing, and I remember very distinctly in October 2009, we did an action in front of the Broward Detention Center, where we set up a classroom in front of the detention center to bring awareness to the school to prison pipeline and young people growing up in this country just trying to go to college, trying to get good grades, trying to do good by their community, and then ending up, in these private prison facilities that profit off of our incarceration. And there was a moment that was supposed to be empowering in the action where we reclaimed the classroom. The classroom had been roped off. It had "Do not enter" tape around it to symbolize the lack of access to higher education and the lack of access to education overall. And so we reclaimed the classroom, and when we did that, we stood on top of the desks. And it was supposed to be an inspiring moment of this is our classroom. We stood on top of desks and started saying we were undocumented and unafraid and sharing our undocumented stories. And it actually ended up being incredibly depressing because we stood on the desks and could see over the wall of the detention center and saw that they were doing construction to expand the bed capacity because they were getting ready so that the next year they could detain more people. I felt so hopeless and so depressed. And I didn't see anything to look forward to. I was very scared that I might take my own life because I just didn't really know how to have hope anymore. And I was in New York, and in a meeting with other youth organizers, and we talked about, well, what do we, in our wildest dreams, what do we need right now? And I don't know, we started having a conversation saying, I wish we had a modern day underground railroad. I wish we had a way to guide these people who are undocumented, who are feeling invisible, who are feeling powerless, in the Deep South, facing all of these extreme conditions that are all thrown against us at the same time. I wish there were a way that they could travel to the north and help each other travel to the north and share their stories and find love along the way. And that was really the birth of the Trail of Dreams. I came back from New York and I was like, I need an underground railroad, and no one's gonna make that for me. I will die if I stay here. So I need to go, and I'm told every day that this country hates immigrants, that this country wants us all gone and deported, and I think I'm being lied to. I think this country actually loves immigrants, and I want to prove them wrong. I want to go to every single city from Miami to DC and prove to these people that there are people that love immigrants in every city across this country. People that would stand up for us. But yeah, I mean, I was just looking for hope. I was just a kid trying to go to college, sad that my family had been deported, struggling to find work without papers, and I started walking because I wanted to find hope, and that's really like the basic story of how that happened. So the next question I want us to discuss is, you know, we take action and then we don't always get to control how that story is told.